Hi, I'm Elena Morales, not the bride, not the favorite, just the one they hoped would sit quietly, smile politely, and not ruin the photo. But I didn't smile, and I definitely didn't stay. The day of my sister's wedding was warm, perfect, curated like a Pinterest dream board. Every flower had been fluffed, every candle lit just so. There were signature cocktails named after the couple. There was a string quartet near the fountain. There was even a memory wall of black and white family photos, every era of love carefully staged. Except not every love. I stood alone at the reception entrance, still holding my invitation like it might explain something. I hadn't received a physical card like the others. Just a forwarded email from my mom 2 weeks late. No +1, no mention of where to sit. I assumed it was an oversight. Turns out it wasn't. I walked up to the hostess with the seating chart. She was smiling until I gave her my name. Elena Morales, I said, sister of the bride. Her eyes flicked down, then back up. I don't see you here. She turned a few laminated pages. Oh, you must be one of the late ads. I wasn't. But not to worry, she said brightly, already walking. We've got you a seat. Right this way. She led me not toward the hall filled with sparkling chandeliers and carefully numbered tables, but to a narrow hallway, tucked between the kitchen service door and the restrooms. There was a lone chair, no table, no place card. Here you are, she chirped. It's quieter here anyway. She left before I could speak. I stood for a moment, just looking. There was a faint smell of bleach from the restroom vents. Someone inside was coughing. The hallway was dim, with a flickering sconce and a stack of plastic catering bins half covered by a wrinkled linen. My seat. Then I heard her voice. Elena? I turned. Monica, the bride, was gliding toward me in her designer lace gown. Custom sleeves, sweetheart neckline, flawless hair that probably took 5 hours. She looked like a magazine cover. She always did. You're here, she said, surprised. We weren't sure. I RSVP'd. She laughed softly, the kind of laugh she gives when she's already moved on in her head. Yeah, well, things got shuffled. You know how wedding stuff is. Total chaos. Then she looked around. Oh, they put you here? Apparently. She gave a tight-lipped smile. Well, at least you get some privacy. I looked at her. Near the bathroom? Come on, she said. Don't be like this. It's my day. Right, her day, just like every other day. You could have just not invited me, I said. She blinked. You're being dramatic. No, I said. I'm just finally seeing things for what they are. Behind her, the ballroom doors opened wide. Laughter and music spilled into the hallway like a wave. Someone called her name. Monica turned. I have to go. Smile, okay? She left without waiting for an answer. I didn't sit. I didn't follow. I turned to the slideshow table, the one set up just outside the main hall. It would be starting soon. Childhood memories, old home videos, her favorite music swelling as photo after photo played across the screen. They'd asked me to send a few pictures. I had. And maybe one video. Only 6 seconds long. Nothing loud, nothing obvious. Just enough. I slipped past the entrance, down the front steps, heels clacking against marble like punctuation marks. Not angry, just done. But not finished. Ever walked into a party and realized you weren't invited, even when your name was on the list? Let me know if it's just me. The ballroom lights dimmed. Inside, someone tapped a champagne glass, signaling the shift from cocktails to curated nostalgia. Laughter simmered to a hush. A projector hummed to life. The first chords of Can't Help Falling in Love played over the speakers. Monica's favorite Elvis cover, slowed down, syrupy. Perfect. On the screen, baby Monica in a tutu, Monica on a tricycle, Monica at prom, tiara slightly tilted, surrounded by girls I hadn't spoken to since high school. The room sighed in unison, a collective swoon. You could almost hear the words forming in people's heads. She's always been so special. Then came the home videos. There we were, the two of us ages ago, sitting in the backyard. I was braiding her hair while she told a story to the camera. Her voice was higher then, but the tone was the same, commanding, sugary. Everyone laughed at her punchline. My hands stilled in her curls, but I smiled anyway. The kind of smile you learn when you're taught to disappear gracefully. Back in the ballroom, the guests smiled too. The video faded. The next clip started. And that's when the room changed. The clip was grainy. Cell phone footage. Monica at a bachelorette party, one glass too deep, her lipstick smudged and her words slurred, but clear. Too clear. "Daniel's boring," she said, tossing back a drink. "But at least he won't ask questions. Safe is better than broke, right?" Her friends laughed. She winked at the camera. "I mean, it's not like I'm in love with him. Love doesn't pay for a penthouse." The clip ended mid-laugh. Then, black screen, no music, no transition, just silence. And in that silence, something cracked. Not loudly, but undeniably. Back in the hallway, I sat on a bench near the exit, watching the flickering lights from under the doorway. I didn't need to be inside to know what was happening. Gasps, shifts in chairs. Probably a few guests glancing around to see if it was a joke. A tech glitch. A prank. I checked my phone. Nothing yet. Then it buzzed. A text from my mother. "What the hell did you do?" Followed by another, seconds later. "Fix it, right now." I didn't reply. Another message came in. "Daniel. Where are you?" This one made me pause, because Daniel had always been decent, kind even. Not oblivious, just loyal to the wrong story. Loyal to Monica's version of everything. I didn't know what I'd say if I saw him. So I stood up and walked toward my car. The night air hit me like a confession. Cool, sharp, bracing. The kind of night that reminds you you're alive, whether you want to be or not. Meanwhile, inside, someone had turned the music back on, but it was awkward now. The tension in the room had changed. I could imagine Monica smoothing her dress, laughing too loudly, pretending it was some kind of inside joke. I could picture my mother's glare cutting across the room like a wire, and my father, stone-faced, probably blaming the AV team. But I knew Daniel. He wasn't laughing. He was the type who noticed tone, who read between the words, who remembered the tiny inconsistencies in stories and eventually stitched them together. He would know it wasn't an accident. The real question wasn't what he'd ask. It was when. Back in the parking lot, I sat in the driver's seat, hands on the wheel but not turning the key. I was remembering the day Monica called me about the wedding. She'd said, "You'll come, right?" It'd mean a lot. For appearances. Not for family, not for connection, for appearances. That was the moment something inside me began to wake up, like finding a splinter in a scar you thought had healed. I'd spent so long being the accommodating one, the forgiving one, the one who didn't push back. But there's only so long you can sit in a hallway before realizing the door was never going to open. So maybe you find your own way out, and maybe, just maybe, you leave something behind that they can't ignore. Ever sat quiet long enough to hear the whole room shift? Sometimes, silence says everything. The night after Monica's wedding felt quieter than it should have. Not peaceful. Just hollow. Like a stage after the play ends, velvet curtains swaying slightly. The actors gone, but their ghosts still lingering. I lay on my couch, staring at the ceiling. The lights were off. My phone was still buzzing from unknown numbers, blocked calls, and one short final text from my father. "You've embarrassed us all." He didn't say you hurt your sister. He didn't say we want to talk. He said you embarrassed us, because that's what mattered. But truth doesn't care about optics. And it never starts on the day it explodes. It started with a necklace. Years ago, just after I'd returned from a summer trip I had saved for, with part-time jobs and relentless budgeting. Monica was in college at the time, drifting from boyfriend to boyfriend like she was auditioning for a life she hadn't earned yet. And I was working 3 shifts a week at a bookstore, skipping lunches to pay for a school-sponsored hiking program in Oregon. First thing I'd done for myself in years. When I came back, the necklace was gone. It wasn't expensive, just sentimental. A silver pendant passed down from my grandmother, one of the only things I'd been allowed to keep when she died. My mother had stored it in her jewelry box for safekeeping. Now it was missing, and somehow that became my fault. "You took it before the trip," Monica said casually from the kitchen table. She didn't even look up from her phone. I froze. "What?" "I saw you put it in your bag. I figured you were just borrowing it." "You're lying." My mom's footsteps echoed behind me. "Don't call your sister a liar." "I'm not. She is. I didn't touch that necklace." Monica finally looked at me. No emotion. Just the kind of blank smirk you give when you know you've already won. She had it, she said. Maybe she pawned it. Oregon wasn't cheap, right? That was the moment. The second I realized she wasn't just careless, she was calculated. Why would I steal something that was already mine? I asked. My dad stepped in. Because you wanted to go on that trip and didn't want to ask us for help. You've always been stubborn like that. My stomach turned. I saved every dollar. I didn't even buy coffee for 6 months. You should have been more transparent, he said. We could have worked something out. I laughed. You mean like Monica does? Maxes out your credit card and calls it a life plan? He slammed his hand on the table. That was the first time I felt it. The shift from invisible to inconvenient. It's one thing to be overlooked. It's another to be seen as a problem. 2 days later, I came home from work to find my drawers rifled through, my bag emptied, my desk overturned like a crime scene in a cheap procedural. My mother sat at the kitchen counter, arms crossed, sipping tea like she hadn't just violated every boundary I had. We needed to be sure, she said. You weren't exactly forthcoming. You searched my room? We looked for clues, my father added. If you didn't take it, what's the harm? The harm, I said slowly, is that you never questioned her. Not once. Monica walked in then, still dressed from yoga, sipping a protein shake like none of it involved her. She always had a thing for that necklace, she said sweetly. Grandma meant a lot to her. You mean a lot to yourself, I snapped. You always have. But they didn't hear me. Because in that house, the story was already written. I was the question mark. Monica was the period. And when you challenge punctuation, no one listens. That was the year I left. Not with a suitcase, with a garbage bag, 2 sets of clothes, my hiking boots, a phone charger, and a folder of documents. No goodbye, no send-off. Just the quiet shame of leaving a house you were never really invited to stay in, and no one came after me. Until now. It's easy to say the video I inserted in the slideshow was revenge, but that's not what it was. It was proof. That when people say she's exaggerating or she's always been dramatic, you have something solid, a timestamp, a voice, a truth that doesn't shake when they deny it. Back in the present, I finally replied to Daniel's text. We should talk, but not over text. He read it instantly, typing. Then it stopped. Then typing again. Finally. When? I looked at the clock. Tomorrow, 5 p.m., my place. I didn't know exactly what I was going to say, but he needed to know who he married, and I needed to say it out loud, just once, to someone who might actually listen. Ever been blamed for something you didn't do, and watched everyone pretend that felt normal? I didn't clean my apartment before Daniel arrived, not out of spite, out of honesty. Let the dust settle on the windowsill. Let the stack of opened mail and used coffee mugs sit where they were. This was where the truth lived now, and the truth was never manicured. At 4:58, I heard the knock. 2 short, 1 soft, like he wasn't sure he should be here. I opened the door, and there he was, still in his wedding suit, minus the tie. His face looked like someone had drained it of color and filled it with questions. He stepped in without a word. We sat at the kitchen table. I poured coffee, black. He didn't drink it, just held the cup like a lifeline. I waited. Then, finally. Was it you? His voice was low, controlled. The clip. I didn't blink. Yes. He exhaled, long and quiet. No rage, no demand, just relief maybe. Or confirmation. I thought so, he said. But then I thought, why? Why now? I looked at him. You really want to know? Yes. I nodded once, then stood. Walked to my bedroom closet and pulled down a thin, dark gray folder from the top shelf. Not a flashy one. Not thick, but heavy in a different way. I placed it on the table, between us. He stared at it like it might explode. What is this? He asked. Proof, I said. Of who you married. Inside were bank statements, not mine, Monica's. I hadn't hacked anything. I didn't need to. She left everything open, on borrowed laptops, on shared desktops. She trusted the fact that I was invisible more than she feared the truth being seen. I'd seen everything. Transfers from the nonprofit she founded, Better Together Foundation, to her personal account. Unjustified reimbursements, labeled events that never happened. Venmo payments to an interior designer during the same period she told donors she was building shelters for single mothers. I printed screenshots, labeled them, dates, amounts, recipients. "This is fake," he said reflexively, flipping pages. "No, it's just inconvenient." He kept reading. When he reached the third document, he stopped. "That's my signature." "No, that's a scanned image of your signature. She used it for a donor agreement. You were in Chicago that week." He looked up at me, the color finally draining from his face for real this time. "She forged my name?" I didn't answer. He already knew. We sat in silence. He closed the folder slowly, like it might tear if he moved too fast. Then he asked, "Why didn't you just send this to the police?" "I still might," I said. "But this wasn't about punishment, not yet." "Then what?" "It was about waking you up." He rubbed his forehead. I thought I knew her." I smiled, but not cruelly. We all did. He stayed another 20 minutes. Didn't ask for the folder. Didn't touch his coffee. When he left, he said one thing. "She's going to deny it." "I know." "And your parents?" "They already picked a side." He nodded. Then he walked out. Later that night, Monica called me. Of course she did. I stared at the screen for a full minute before answering. "Congratulations," I said. "Your secrets have officially made it out of the house." "You vindictive little—" she started. "Save it." "You think this makes you look smart?" "No," I said calmly. "It makes me look awake." "You stole private information." "You left it wide open on a shared drive." She was silent for a beat. "You don't know the whole story." "I know you used your own charity like an ATM." "Watch it," she snapped. "No," I said, "you watch it, because if you try to spin this, to paint me as unstable, bitter, jealous, then I'll show everyone what's in folder 2. There was a pause, then a scoff. "You're bluffing." "You want to find out?" Another pause. Then she hung up. And just like that, the silence came back. But this time, it felt like mine. I spent the rest of the evening preparing 2 emails. One to the board of directors of the Better Together Foundation and one to Daniel. Attached to both was a simple zip file named internaltransfer_logs.pdf. Nothing more. No message. No explanation. Let the document speak the language Monica never learned. Accountability. I didn't send the emails that night. I just hovered my cursor over the send button, waited, and that's when my phone buzzed again. My mother. I let it go to voicemail. The message was short. "We need to talk. Don't do anything stupid. Your father's furious." I played it twice, then deleted it. I didn't plan to use the second folder. At first, it was insurance. A quiet archive of things said in rooms where I wasn't supposed to be listening. Just background noise, stored like dust in the corners of my memory. But when you grow up in a house that praises silence and punishes truth, you learn to collect everything. Especially the things they whisper when they think you're not home. I kept it all. Not to weaponize, but because forgetting was never an option. And now? Now they had forced my hand. 2 days after Daniel left my apartment, my mother showed up unannounced. No text, no call. Just the sound of her Lexus pulling up like a battle cry in the driveway. I opened the door and didn't step aside. She stared at me like she hadn't seen me in years. "Are you proud of yourself?" she asked. Not a hello. Not how are you. I didn't answer. Just tilted my head slightly. "You destroyed your sister's reputation. Do you even care what this is doing to your father?" "Did either of you care what it was doing to me?" Her mouth opened, then closed. She stepped forward. I didn't move. "I want you to give me whatever else you're hiding," she said, "before this gets worse." That's when I realized she wasn't here to listen. She was here to contain the fire. Too late. I walked into my living room and returned with a USB drive. Set it gently on the kitchen counter between us. "What is this?" "Folder 2. She picked it up, scoffed. "You think you're clever." "No," I said. "I think I'm tired." That night, Monica called again. This time I answered on speaker and recorded it. Not because I planned to use it, but because instinct is a hard thing to untrain. "You think you've won?" she spat. I didn't say anything. "You were never better than me, just quieter. That's not strength, Elena. That's cowardice." My voice stayed level. The only difference between us is that I remember what you want to forget. She laughed. Cold, clipped. You're a cancer. You rot everything from the inside. You mean like siphoning money from your own charity? Silence. You haven't changed, she said. You're still bitter I got everything first. No, I said. I'm just finally done pretending you earned any of it. Click. Call ended. I saved the recording anyway. The next morning, I emailed the board of Better Together Foundation, this time with attachments. I didn't write a long message, just the truth in context. But that wasn't the end of it. Because the second folder wasn't just about Monica, it was about them. 3 years ago, Thanksgiving. I was staying with them for the weekend. Monica was in the city. Daniel couldn't make it. I was in the guest room, the one with the window that stuck, and the closet that still smelled faintly of mothballs. I woke up to their voices in the kitchen, low and sharp. I should have gone back to sleep. I didn't. Instead, I sat quietly on the stairs and listened. Mom, I hope she doesn't expect the same wedding treatment as Monica. We barely pulled that off. Dad, she won't. She's not the marrying type anyway. Mom, she's competent, I'll give her that, but God, she's just so emotionally flat. Dad, always has been. Remember how she barely cried when Grandma died? Mom, that's what scares me. She's always been a little off. Dad, you think she knows how much we've given Monica? Mom, of course not, and she's too proud to ask. Dad, good. We can't afford to split things evenly. I sat on that stairwell for a long time, not because I didn't know those things, but because it was the first time I heard them spoken like facts. Like I was less. Unapologetically so. I recorded that conversation too. Never deleted it. Never played it back until last week. When Monica called me a cancer, I remembered how they called me off. When my mother demanded I stop before it got worse, I remembered that they never planned to give me anything. And I realized something. They weren't protecting Monica because she was innocent. They were protecting Monica because she was the investment, and I was just the cost. Later that week, a journalist reached out. Local small blog. Someone had leaked whispers about the non-profit scandal. I didn't say much. Just, check the board filings, then check where the money went. I didn't need to light the fire. I just handed over the match. Daniel texted me again on Friday. She's saying you manipulated everything, that you photoshopped the bank statements. I replied with one sentence. She also said she loved you. He didn't respond for an hour. Then, she's been locked in the bedroom for 2 days. Then, I'm calling a lawyer. That night, I opened my window and let the fall air spill into my apartment. It smelled like rain and something new. Freedom, maybe, or peace with being misunderstood. There's a kind of power in that, when you stop needing someone to believe you, and you just start living like the truth is enough. Ever realize your silence was the only thing holding their story together? The first headline hit the local news on a Wednesday afternoon. Charity under scrutiny. Better Together faces allegations of financial misconduct. They didn't mention Monica's name directly. Not yet. But anyone who had ever clicked on the foundation's website knew who ran it, knew the name on the glossy About page, knew the carefully curated photos. Monica, with her perfectly styled hair, standing next to smiling single mothers, arms around children she never spoke to again. By Thursday, the article had been picked up by 3 more outlets. Then the board made a statement. Then Daniel's lawyer filed a motion. By Friday morning, my phone rang. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something in my chest, not vengeance, not curiosity, something else, made me pick up. It was my father. Elena, he started. His voice was dry, controlled, almost rehearsed. Dad, I said flatly, we need to speak, all of us. No. Silence, then softer, please. That word, from him, it landed differently. I'm listening, I said, leaning against the counter. Your sister is not well. She hasn't left her apartment. She's lost her job. Daniel's lawyers are being aggressive and the board wants a full audit. She did that to herself. I know. The silence that followed wasn't empty. It was layered, like a house collapsing in slow motion. She's not the only one who needs help, he added. I let that hang. Waited. Then came the twist. We didn't plan for this. Your mother and I were being named in the complaint. There are tax filings we co-signed. That made me pause. They hadn't just turned a blind eye. They'd been part of it. How much? I asked. He hesitated. Enough to lose the house. That night, my mother called. Her voice was thinner than usual, worn. I know we weren't fair to you, she said. I said nothing. I don't expect forgiveness, but we're scared. You should be, I said. You don't understand what it's like, watching everything fall apart. Don't I? The silence that followed wasn't surprised. It was ashamed. Elena, she whispered, help us. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I didn't hang up. Instead, I asked a question I had been carrying for years. Do you remember my college graduation? What? You said you couldn't come because Monica was having a bad week. You said I was being selfish, that it was just a piece of paper. Elena, that piece of paper paid for everything I own now. I earned it. Alone. While you paid for her marketing degree that she used to build a fraudulent brand. She didn't answer. I want to help, I said finally. But I won't fix this for you. I'm not your PR team. I'm not your scapegoat. Then what do you want? I thought for a moment, then replied, I want you to feel it. All of it. The fear, the shame, the weight of what you protected. I want you to sit in it, the same way I did. Alone, unheard, but never undeserving. The next day, Daniel showed up at my door. He looked different. Not broken, not bitter, just stripped down. Can I come in? He asked. I stepped aside. He didn't say much at first, just stood in my kitchen, staring at the window like it might offer a map out of his marriage. Then he turned to me. I'm filing for divorce. I nodded. She tried to say it was your fault, that you manipulated everything, but you didn't need to. No, I said. I just stopped covering for her. He let out a small breath, almost a laugh. You know what the worst part is? He said. What? I think I knew, deep down, but loving her made it easier to lie to myself. That's what she's good at, I said, making people rewrite their own instincts. He looked at me then, like he was seeing me, not just as Monica's sister, not as the girl who walked out of the wedding, but as a person who had lived through a war no one noticed. I'm sorry, he said. You didn't owe me anything. I think I did, he replied. At least honesty. Before he left, he handed me a flash drive. What's this? Security footage from the day before the wedding. Monica met with someone, a man. I didn't recognize him, but it didn't look innocent. I stared at the drive. Why give this to me? Because you'll know what to do with it. And just like that, the final piece clicked. Because this wasn't just about money or favoritism or a wedding slideshow. This was about a system Monica built, one she thought would never collapse. And now, she was the only one buried under it. The funny thing about truth is that it doesn't knock. It leaks. It drips through ceilings, slips under locked doors, seeps into dinner conversations and polite smiles until someone finally says what everyone's been pretending not to know. By the time Monica's story unraveled, no one was surprised. They just acted like they were. The video Daniel gave me? It was real. Security footage, a hotel lobby, Monica in a white trench coat, oversized sunglasses, entering just after 2 p.m., 2 hours before the rehearsal dinner. Alone. A man joined her 3 minutes later. Not Daniel, not a friend. Someone with his hand on her lower back like he'd done it 100 times before. They left together an hour later. That alone wasn't proof, but the timestamp was. So was the matching luggage she brought back to the suite, the same bag she claimed was for extra shoes. I didn't release the footage. I didn't have to. I sent it to Monica. No message, no caption, no threat. Just a file titled, Before You Say Anything .mp4. She never replied. By the time the board officially announced her removal from Better Together, the media had moved on. There were newer scandals, louder people falling faster. Monica faded like a half-baked influencer trying to pivot after an apology video. Daniel filed for divorce. No contest, no property fight. He offered a single public statement. Some truths take time, but time always shows up. And our parents? They sold the house. Quiet listing, off-market, discreet. I didn't ask where they moved. I didn't need to know. Last week, I got a letter. Not an email, not a text. A letter. Handwritten, no return address, but I knew the handwriting. It was from my mother. Elena, I don't know if you'll ever forgive us. I'm not even sure you should. But I think you should know. Your father reads your name out loud when no one's around, like saying it might bring you back. I wish we'd seen you sooner. I wish we'd chosen better. We won't ask you to come home. Just know that if you ever do, we'll be listening this time. Mom. I folded the letter and placed it in a drawer. Did I cry? No, I felt something else. Something quieter. Not satisfaction, not victory, just stillness. The night Monica's name disappeared from her foundation website, I took myself to dinner. Alone. Candle on the table, linen napkin, a glass of wine I couldn't pronounce but liked anyway. I sat by the window, watched the city pulse like a distant heartbeat, and breathed. Not like someone who won, like someone who no longer had to keep losing. The waiter brought the check with a smile. Celebrating something? I thought about it for a second. Freedom, I said. He nodded like he understood. A week later, I started a job with a nonprofit that actually serves people. Real people. No gala, no glossy Instagram. Just hands that help. I don't post about it. I don't tweet quotes about healing. I just show up. Quietly, steady. Because when you grow up in a house where love was earned, not given, showing up for yourself feels like revolution. One last thing. Monica sent me an email yesterday. Subject line, "Can we talk?" I didn't open it. Not out of spite, out of peace. Because sometimes the final word isn't one you say. It's the silence that follows when you finally stop chasing closure from people who only ever offered control. I didn't burn the house down. I just walked out. And let the match they dropped finally do what it was always going to do. Ever felt the kind of peace that comes not from forgiveness, but from finally choosing yourself? Sometimes walking away isn't the hardest part. It's staying gone when people finally notice your silence. Looking back, I didn't expose the truth to hurt anyone. I just stopped hiding it to protect people who never once protected me. And if you're in a place right now where your worth feels conditional, let me say this clearly. You don't need to burn yourself to keep others warm. You get to choose peace over performance. Have you ever had to let go of family to find yourself? Or stayed quiet so long your voice forgot how to be heard? If this story resonated with you, even just a little, I'd love to hear where you're watching from, or what part hit home for you. And hey, if this wasn't your cup of tea, tell me why. I'm listening. If you found value in this video, if it reached your heart in any way, please consider subscribing to the channel so you don't miss the next story. Your voice matters here, always.